In the latest version of Kasm Workspaces 1.16, the support for egress providers has been added. Admins can now map an egress provider to a workspace, or a user, or a group. The egress provider contains a collection of egress gateways that can be selected when launching a workspace. All the workspace's traffic will then be tunneled through the chosen egress gateway. As part of this new feature, Kasm has partnered with PureVPN, a secure and reliable commercial VPN service to streamline access to 80+ locations across 65 different countries. Additionally, you can also create custom egress providers using OpenVPN or Wireguard. In this video, we will give you an overview of the egress provider feature, the license integration with PureVPN, and examples of how admins can configure OpenVPN or Wireguard-based VPN providers of their choice. The integrated PureVPN egress provider is a licensed feature. So in order to use it, you need to obtain a license from Kasm. Once you have the license, go to Admin, Diagnostics, System Info, and then Licensing. Click Add License, paste your license, and click Add. After adding the license, give it a few minutes so that Kasm can verify and apply the new feature. Now, go to Egress Plugins and you will see that the PureVPN Egress plugin has been registered. You can then go to Infrastructure, Egress, to see that the PureVPN Managed Egress Provider has been created automatically and is ready to use. You can see here that this is managed, which means that the Kasm servers are responsible for auto-populating the gateways and configuring the corresponding credentials. You can click Edit to see more details about the provider. By default, Enable New Managed Gateways is disabled. You can enable it if you want to automatically configure any new gateways that are added by PureVPN in the future. Go to Egress Gateways, and here you can see all the available gateways from PureVPN that are automatically configured for you to use in Kasm. To use this egress provider, you can assign it to a workspace, user, or group object. For simplicity, let's assign it to a group. Go to Access Management, Groups, select the group and click Edit. Go to the Egress tab, click Add, and select PureVPN as the egress provider from the drop-down. By default, all the gateways are allowed, but you can turn this off and give access to selected gateways only. Since I mapped PureVPN to the All Users group, it means that all the users can now use this egress provider while launching a workspace. The users can choose the country, city, and the gateway they want to use for that workspace. All their session traffic will now be tunneled through the selected egress gateway. Before using the egress provider feature, it is important to understand that this feature is solely intended to bridge a container with a VPN. This may or may not be sufficient for your forensic use cases. Some of your use cases may require configuring additional settings in Kasm. For example, you may want to change the language and time zone of your session, and these can be set in your profile settings. It is also important to consider the IP geolocation constraints associated with this feature. To demonstrate this, let me open a Chrome session from the Albania PureVPN gateway. PureVPN registers their gateway in the popular MaxMind database, which is also where IPleak.net fetches the data from. However, if you use other services that use a different database, the geolocation data may or may not match with your egress gateway location. For example, maps.bing.com correctly displays that we are in Albania, but maps.google.com may not display this correctly. Different websites and service providers collect IP geolocation data using various methods. Many rely on established databases like MaxMind, while others, such as Google, combine multiple attributes to improve accuracy. To understand this in more detail, we encourage you to read this blog post from PureVPN. Keep in mind that if you notice different websites displaying varying geolocation data during your session, it doesn't necessarily mean your IP address is compromised. It simply reflects the fact that different platforms use distinct approaches for collecting geolocation data. Commercial VPNs often allocate shared IPs to users. This means that multiple users may be using the same IP address assigned to you by your VPN. This can lead to websites like Google imposing additional verification steps, such as requiring the user to solve a CAPTCHA to prove they are not a bot. For enterprise customers requiring dedicated IP addresses and managed attribution, please reach out to the Kasm sales team. We can provide a customized solution to meet your specific needs. As already mentioned, you can also manually create a custom egress provider with OpenVPN or Wireguard. Let's see how to do this with OpenVPN first. Go to Admin, Infrastructure, Egress. Click Add and give it a name. Set the egress provider type to OpenVPN and click Save. Now select the created provider and click Edit. Go to Egress Gateways and click Add. This is where we will define a gateway for this egress provider. For this example, I'll use the OpenVPN configuration from PureVPN. Admins are free to use any compatible VPN service they like. Give your gateway a name, country, city, and finally paste the OpenVPN configuration and click Save. Now that an egress gateway is created, we need to associate it with a workspace, user, or group. Let's associate this with a group. Go to Access Management, Groups, select the group and click Edit. Go to the Egress tab and set the egress provider to the manually added OpenVPN provider. We still need to configure the egress credentials for the created egress provider. Let's do this to a user object. To do this, go to Access Management and then Users. Select the user and click Edit. Now go to Egress Credentials and click Add. Select the egress provider, give it a name, and finally, give the username and password. You can get the username and password from your VPN provider. We can also limit the active connections used for these credentials. For example, we can set it to 1 so that these credentials are restricted to a single simultaneous connection. Now you can go to your workspaces and launch a workspace with the newly created egress provider and gateway. If you try to launch a new session, you can notice here that it does not show you the option to use the egress provider. And that is because we have limited this user to only have one active connection. Now let's see how to manually create a custom egress provider with Wireguard. Go to Admin, Infrastructure, Egress, and click Add. Give it a name and ensure the type is Wireguard and click Save. Now edit the created provider, go to Egress Gateways and click Add. For this example, I'll once again use the Wireguard configuration from PureVPN. Admins can choose whatever VPN service they like. Give your gateway a name, country, city, and finally paste the Wireguard configuration here. The private key serves as the credential used to connect to this gateway. So let's copy it first and then remove it from the configuration. Next, instead of associating the provider with a group object like before, let's link it to a specific workspace. Go to Workspaces, select the workspace you want to associate with this egress provider. In this example, I'll clone the existing Ubuntu Noble workspace and rename it to Ubuntu Noble Japan. I'll now edit the cloned workspace, go to Egress, and click Add. Choose the newly created Wireguard provider as the egress provider. For this example, let me disable Allow All Gateways and choose the particular gateway I want to associate with this workspace. Next, go to Egress Credentials and click Add. Select the egress provider, give it a name, and finally, paste the private key that you copied from the configuration earlier. You can also enable Override Egress Gateways, ensuring that only the gateways defined in the workspace settings are used, even if other egress gateways are available. Now when you launch the workspace, you will notice that only the specified egress provider is displayed due to the override. And as you can see, my session is now attached with the Wireguard VPN that I configured. Let's now walk through how to troubleshoot an egress provider when issues arise. As an example, I have intentionally misconfigured the credentials for my OpenVPN egress gateway. Now, I'll attempt to launch a workspace. As expected, the workspace launch fails, displaying a message indicating that it was not able to connect to the egress gateway. To troubleshoot this, administrators can review the logs. We have a troubleshooting guide in our documentation that provides detailed steps for diagnosing egress feature issues using logs. To view the logs from the admin interface, go to Diagnostics and then Logging. Set the level to Debug. You can then add a new filter to see only the logs related to Network Sidecar. In the logs, you will notice an auth failed error, which corresponds to the incorrect OpenVPN credentials we configured earlier. The logs can also be reviewed from the terminal. The setup I have right now is an agent role on a multi-server installation. Based on the logs, it's obvious that the way to fix this issue is to correct the egress credentials. When you launch a workspace with an egress gateway, you can see notifications on the side like this. Administrators can silence these notifications. To do this, go to Workspaces in your admin interface, select the workspace and click Edit. In the Docker run config override, set the following environment variables. Set Show VPN status to 0 and Show IP status to 0. This will silence the VPN and IP status notifications for this workspace. And as you can see, we now no longer see these notifications when the workspace is launched. But we are still connected to the VPN. And that will be all for this video. In this video, we covered the new egress provider feature in Kasm Workspaces 1.16, including how to configure PureVPN integration, manually set up OpenVPN and Wireguard providers, and troubleshoot potential issues. Thanks for watching, and feel free to check out our documentation for more details. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.